Meet the future Paradox Pokemon Brian Hands, a real stand-up bloke who absolutely lives up to the name. But this guy's more than just his massive metacarpals, because he's got arguably the best attack in the game. Amp you very much. It costs a whopping 4 energy and only does 120 damage, but don't let this deceive you. If Brian happens to knock out the opposing active Pokemon, you get to take an extra prize. It is impossible to overstate just how good this effect is. Slapping this line of text onto just about any attack is enough to make it genuinely broken. But this isn't exactly new. Brian has been a menace in the competitive TCG ever since he was first released into the wild as a part of the Paradox Rift set. He's won multiple internationals, multiple Japanese Champions Leagues, and more regionals than I can count on one hand. Brian Hands has historically seen success in a whole variety of decks. Most notably in Miraidon, where he can be searched out from the deck with the tandem unit ability and then powered up with electric generators. But you really don't need to be playing a deck with 15 lightning energy to make use of this fella. The unique attack cost of 3 colorless and only 1 lightning allows him to be splashed into just about any deck with solid energy acceleration. Brian also managed to win major events as a key piece in Lost Box, being powered up with Mirage Gate, Qian Pao making use of Baxcalibur's Super Cold ability, Lugia V-Star ever since the release of Legacy Energy, with some lists even opting to include a basic lightning energy and Earthen Vessel to really lean into getting the most out of Brian. He even featured as the main attacker in his very own deck, Future Hands. And those are just the archetypes that he's managed to win major events with. I'm not even going to get into how he was splashed into other decks like Roaring Moon and Arceus Armarouge. I can't think of a single other attacking Pokemon that has done this well in this many different archetypes. But as we approach Brian's final year within the standard format, I've come to the conclusion that you can throw this guy into just about any deck and it'll cook. And with the release of this Magneton from Surging Sparks, it is truly the reality that we now live in. First, I want to cover a few rules that define the decks which can optimally make use of this incredible duo. Then I'll go through 3 current archetypes that I think can immediately start abusing this combination, and even continue to use it in a post-rotation world. And then I'll finish up with a few less competitive but definitely hilarious homes for Brian. So what are we going to need to make use of this powerful pair? First up, you probably want to be an aggressive deck, or at least a deck that can capitalize off of an early prize lead. I think it goes without saying, but I don't exactly recommend trying to put Brian Hands in a Snorlax stall deck. A deck like Qian Pao worked well since they were happy to play Earthen Vessels, which allowed them to access Brian's one-of lightning energy. And something like Lost Box was generally already playing lightning energy for attackers like Dragonite V, Raikou V, or more recently Pikachu EX. You'll want to easily be able to access Stage 1 Pokemon so that you can always find Magneton when you need it. In this current format, that basically means that you're playing Ultra Balls. Not a problem for most decks, but something like Lost Box may struggle to get the most out of this combo given its lack of Ultra Balls and limited access to Magneton. Ideally, the deck won't have any one-prize attackers. You want to be pressuring your opponent into taking a 2-2-2 line so that popping a Magneton and feeding them a prize will have functionally no downside. Potentially even an upside, since when they play Iono, they'll be down a card. The decks that'll get the most out of this are those that are capable of taking one-hit KOs on high HP 2-prize Pokemon. This allows just about every game to finish in 4 turns. 1 to set up, and then either demolishing any 2-prizer in your opponent's active, or stealing an extra prize with Brian when faced with a 1-prize board state, enabling a 2-2-2 prize map in almost every game. So what are the 3 current meta decks that I'm so keen to load up with Magneton and Brian Hands? Goldingo, Raging Bolt, and Ceruledge. Let's start with a deck that's been absolutely dominating the past couple tournaments. Goldingo. Here's a quick sample list that I've whipped up. Now let's go through those 5 criteria that I just mentioned. Although you can opt for a passive start and often hold on to an initially 1-prize board state, this is definitely an aggressive deck that is always looking to take the first 2 prizes. Thanks to Energy Search Pro, you're already playing 1 basic lightning energy, so I've just swapped out the second water for a second lightning. No issues finding Stage 1 Pokemon here, that's what the deck was built to do given our main attacker is one. And we've got more than just a couple Ultra Balls, since Technical Machine Evolution can also search out Magneton, and Cypher Maniac's Codebreaking can literally find any card. This next point can be a bit of a problem in certain matchups, but luckily not in the ones where you'd actually want to be using Brian Hands. See, while Goldingo doesn't actually use any one prize attackers, it does often benefit from forcing your opponent to take the first prize before you start evolving and attacking yourself. However, in key matchups like against Gardevoir and against Dragapult, you're almost always the aggressor and initiating the prize race. So giving up that single prize from Magneton to power up Brian won't really matter. One interesting thing to mention is how the Goldingo mirror works. It often boils down to a stalemate where each side is presenting a one prize board state. If you attack first, you'll only take a single prize and give your opponent the opportunity to take the first two. Currently, the best options to get around this that don't involve playing Palkia V-Star are to run 2 water energy and triple manual attach onto Greninja, utilize the one prize Goldango with the strike at Rich attack, or just attach 3 energy onto a Gimmighoul and start tackling. However, with Iron Hand, you can take the first 2 prizes as soon as turn 2 while only giving your opponent 1 with Magneton. This sets you up to pretty much always win the game. And for that final point, of course we can hit big numbers. Make It Rain is an insane attack that regularly does 350 damage or even more if you really need it to. Next up, everyone's favorite ancient paradox Pokemon, Great Neck. Yep, this deck is just about the definition of insanely aggressive. Plus, you're already playing Lightning Energy, so you don't need to add anything over on that side. Now, here's where it does struggle a bit, actually searching out your Magneton. The deck is normally comprised entirely of basic Pokemon, so it's not like you really need to be playing Ultra Ball. However, Caleb Gedimer's first place list from last year's Louisville Regionals is a great example, since it did opt for a couple in order to enable Lumineon V. Plus, the added consistency of more ball search is always welcome in a deck like this, and you often see enough of your deck so quickly that actually finding Magneton isn't that much of an issue. Usually, Raging Bolt attempts to offset the prize trade by mixing in an attack from the one prize Slitherwing. However, this does have the issue where if they gust around it once, you can't really attack with it again as a result of the massive self-damage from Burning Turbulence. For this deck, we'll be taking it out since Magneton's ability already sets our opponent onto odd prizes. You'll be a bit more susceptible to walls like Mimikyu, but not every Raging Bolt list was playing the Slitherwing anyway. And you can always try and punch through Mimikyu with Magneton, that's something, right? For that last point, yeah, this deck is 100% capable of one-shotting anything, so a well-timed Magneton to power up Iron Hands can absolutely lead to a 2-2-2 prize map, even when faced with a one prize board state. Plus, since most decks are now opting to go second in the current meta, this can be a great option to go for when forced to go first against slower decks. Lastly, we've got Cerulege. Similar to Goldango, this is absolutely an aggressive deck, but you won't be making any big attacks on the first turn. However, it is a bit worse at maintaining that initial single prize board state, since you'll often want to be ripping Squawk and Seize on turn 1. You'll generally be running 18 energy anyway, so there isn't too much loss from turning 3 of them into Lightnings, especially if you're also cutting the standard Palkia V-Star package. And with a deck built like this, you'll have no issue actually getting those lightning energies into the bin. Again, like Goldango, this deck is entirely built around attacking with stage 1 Pokemon. So with 4 Ultra Balls and a bunch of supporters that rip through your deck, getting one into play is absolutely no issue at all. Cerulege does sometimes incorporate small one-prize attackers like Badoo or Fan Rotom. These can add a bit of extra pressure and also give you something to do on the first turn of the game when you have to go second. But this package takes away the bench spaces that would normally allow for this. However, Brian generally makes up for this lost turn 1 attack anyway. As for one-shotting things, Cerulege has the most trouble doing this on the second and sometimes third turn of the game compared to the other 2 decks. But it turns into an absolute machine once your discard is stacked with energy. And a cool thing to note is that since Brian's 4 retreat cost matches the attack cost of Ampu very much, the energy will never end up stranded on him. Now for a couple more fun ideas. I don't have any full deck list prepped for these, but I challenge you to make your own and drop them in the comments so that I can rate them. A deck like Archaludon has no trouble accelerating energy into play thanks to Assemble Alloy, but it really sucks when you use Dialga V-Stars Star Chronos and the 220 damage isn't enough to one-shot their active. Maybe something like a full HP Dragapult EX. Why not jam a Scramble Switch into the deck and move all of that energy off of Dialga and onto Brian? Manually attach a Lightning Energy and now you're taking 3 prizes on that extra turn you stole. Or how about Charizard? Infernal Rain is already accelerating 3 energy into play. Why not give them to Brian and just manually attach that last Lightning for a surprise Ampu very much out of nowhere? Gardevoir might have the easiest time accelerating energy of any deck in the current meta, but it's a shame that Psychic Embrace can only target Psychic Pokemon. Luckily, Thornton is still legal for a few more weeks. We can just replace that basic Psychic Pokemon with Brian, attach a Lightning Energy, and start stealing extra prizes. Like I said, those last three are a little bit more out there, but I'd love to see what you guys can cook up. And I seriously do think that Magneton and Brian Hands are a genuinely powerful package that a lot of aggressive decks can potentially incorporate, particularly once post-rotation hits. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment to appease the algorithm. Also, shout out to all my channel members for the additional support.